Hello, all of you. Today we are going to talk about literature, literary theory, critical theory, and literary criticism. There are so many things which are integrated together, and this topic, these authors, and the details are very important for any student of English literature. So, I'm going to start with this new topic which I have not taken uh, before. The relationship between literature and literary theory is actually symbiotic. Literary criticism is not a new concept. It was a development that ran parallel to the history of literature in ancient Greece. Critical theory stresses the reflective assessments and critique of society and culture by applying knowledge from the social sciences and the humanities. The question that researchers often face in this area is whether theory is as a conceptual model generate practice or practice means writing of literature generates theory. An etymological understanding of the word theory provides the answer. Etymology is a study of origin of words, शब्द कहाँ से आए, and the word theory is of Greek origin. It is derived from the Greek word theoria, which means contemplation and speculation. By this logic, theory is the contemplation of the practice of writing literature and that comes after it. Now, we have to understand the difference between literary theory versus literary criticism. Literary theory is a conceptual model that provides a theoretical framework for the study of a work of literature. Literary criticism is a practical application of literary theory, and it is a study, interpretation, and evaluation of literature. It judges the quality of a literary work. So, the terms literary theory, literary criticism are actually closely related to each other. Literary criticism is fundamentally the estimation of the value of a particular work of body of on which grounds, that is the personal ground or the cultural significance of the themes and the uses of language as a text, the insights and the impact of a text, and the aesthetic production of the text, as these areas particularly are seen to be mutually dependent, supportive or inflective. Now, classical literary theory revolves around three key figures. First is Plato, second is Aristotle, and the third is Longinus. As far as Plato is concerned, Plato gives us the theory of mimesis, according to which all art is mimetic by nature. It is an imitation of life, and he believed that idea is the ultimate reality and art imitates idea. Therefore, it is an imitation of the reality. And he exemplified this with the example of a carpenter and a chair. The idea of the chair actually came first in the carpenter's mind, and he gave physical shape to the idea that created a chair out of wood. And the painter, who is an artist, imitated the carpenter's creation in his picture. So, the painter's chair is twice removed from reality. Hence he believed, that art is twice removed from reality. Now, we are going to judge what is philosophy and what is poetry. That is, philosophy versus poetry. According to Plato, philosophy is superior to poetry, and philosophy deals with ideas, whether poetry deals with illusion. So, Plato rejected poetry as it is mimetic in nature on moral and philosophical grounds. Plato authored two critical texts. One is Ion and the second is The Republic. Ion is a very short dialogue which involves two speakers, Socrates, who is Plato's mouthpiece in the dialogues, and Ion, who is a rhapsode. Who was a rhapsode? Classical Greek performer of epic poetry. As Ion recites and praises Homer's epic in public performances, his range is limited. Socrates questions the genesis of Ion's art. In fact, he observes that Ion's gift of word is not an art, and he has no real skill. He is like a soothsayer or a prophet who has some divine position. So now we come to the work Republic. Republic is basically an extended conversation and the central argument which is advanced by the proponent of the argument, Socrates. In it, Plato's intent is to philosophically establish an ideal state, and Plato also presents us with a negative view of literature. Though the work has a dominant social and political concern, Plato discusses the role of poets in his perfect commonwealth at several places. And this work, Republic, is written in 10 books. So after Plato, now we come to discuss with Aristotle. Aristotle, who is a big name, and a major critical treatise written by him called the Poetics, in which he gave us the theory of imitation. And he defined art as mimesis, but his theory differs radically from Plato's view on art. For Aristotle, mimesis is not a mere portrayal of representation of reality, but a representation of the world of human life in all its happiness and misery. So, for Aristotle, poetry presents a slice of real life, and it is a constructive activity and idealized representation of human action. What is a definition of tragedy according to Aristotle? Tragedy is the imitation of an action that is very serious, which is complete, and it has a certain magnitude, which is embellished with artistic language, which is garnered with its artistic language. It is highly full of action, not a narrative based, and contains incidents which arouse pity, fear, out of what? Out of sympathy for the plight of the hero, that is the protagonist. And the aim of the tragedy is to bring about the catharsis of the emotions of pity and fear. And every tragedy must have six details, that is plot, character, diction, thought, spectacle, and melody. I'll repeat these six again: plot, character, diction, thought, spectacle, and melody. There are so many questions which have been asked on these details. Now, what is a plot? Plot refers to how incidents are arranged and presented to the audience, which presents a well-constructed cause and effect chain of that action. And what are the features of the plot? It must be whole with a beginning, middle, and end. Unless and until there is a beginning, middle, and an end, that cannot be a good plot. And it must be a complete, that is, complete means it should have the unity of time, place, and action. Though Aristotle never mentioned about unity of place, he mentioned about unity of time and action. And all these things should always be of certain magnitude. Now we come to the second point, that is character. Character, as far as Aristotle has details, the protagonist should be a man of high stature with a noble nature and should possess ethical goodness, but not perfection, because nobody can be a perfect man. And he completely should be a blameless character, which is not suitable for tragedy. Hero's downfall is not caused because of his depravity, but because of his tragic flaw, and that tragic flaw is called hamartia. So first was plot, second was character. We come to the third, that is thought. Aristotle says very little about this aspect, and most of what he says is associated with how speeches should reveal your character. Whatever we are saying, it reveals your character. The fourth point which comes is diction. And what is diction? It is the expression of meaning in words and the stylistic aspects of tragedy. Then melody, which refers to the musical element of the chorus. And last but not least, spectacle, which refers to the external stage mechanics that produces spectacular effects, because ultimately the audience is, the spectators are watching it. So it produces the spectacular effects which basically makes your drama look beautiful. Now, the third important author, Longinus, who was a Greek critic who authorized the critical treatise, one of the most monumental works on the sublime. And it may be termed as the Bible of modern poetics because of its laying down a number of rules and postulating many a principle of poetic performance. Longinus happens to be both a classicist and a romanticist, and on his sublime presents a happy blend of romantic as well as classical traits. He introduces the concept of sublimity. And what is sublimity? A thing which pleases all and pleases always, as a primary characteristic of great writings. The sublime style, according to Longinus, is a blend of great conceptions, noble passions, and elevated diction. According to Longinus, sublimity has 5 characteristics. First, grandeur of thought, strong and inspired emotion, the proper construction of figures, that is metaphors and ornamental language, nobility of diction, and dignity of composition. So unless and until there are 5 things, it cannot be of sublimity. Longinus also gave the theory of transport, which states that the test of great literature lies not in the instruction, delight or persuasion, but in transport. And what is this? The ability to ecstasy by the irresistible power of the sublime language. And this is something which was very definite, which was so important to understand. Now the fourth author which comes is Horace. Horace was a Latin critic who is known for his wonderful work Ars Poetica, and which is a great treatise on poetry. According to him, the function of poetry is either to edify or delight, and theorizes about the uses of poetry to society as a